kaya kapile wopila chicha. Tronkashila wakantrankale. Apete wakaya kapile. Elila wopila tranka chiches. Waleha wana wanietu etkena he. Ichasha wakancha he. Oyate gatio etke etomna. To kishke he. Tron in stokkiske daku ka woyake kwake gona yukcha omani. Sayon tronkashli ila oyate o kitkapi ota omani there. Etke yagmish gupte. Chahena cha tankilena. Awichaya kisa takumani akushicha he. Wayanka Krishni. I asked the Amrik to look upon our relatives who are going to be traveling to and fro to see the relatives for Christmas. And Akuna Achchile, Wakochile, Achchilila Ota Hewazaka Alpke, and Ushich Chena Ukiaye. I'm pet to go there, Wana, Misu Mithak, Misula Mithak, and Techi Akpai, Wana. Hey, Chela, Wana, Ukichaga, Mukishnala. Sana misuna miye hoina. Uwogla kabna. Aku kawa steshti umyukcha be umyuhab. So yok bi uwogla kabsa tukashli. So aleha tu hena kiana ya peloso e wopila kata chiche. Na tuwaka hena ku wochike nicha. Ishtuktel akichita opkhamish. Wana tukte tuka tiata ena yo hapshni ena ku kichita tuake he maza tipi el unki. Na itrokapshni ohena takucha ektojapshni unichapcha trokashilana uchi shukana or kakana na wochike trogna khona ukiaya. Asked the Maker to look down upon our elderly, help them enjoy their lives, and also to think about all our people who have no home, having a hard time with it. And Alila Ota, we're having a lot of young people starting to get affected by Yutako Shicha, Yihuniki, that bad thing that's amongst us. So I don't Hokashila Hena. Otrana, thank you, Wochika, Ekaki Chuha, and Oshiachina, okay. So the most humblest way I can ask is please look forward and take care of our little ones. Ijawana, Atua, Ichipabu Hakash, Achtiwazaka, Ukietka, Ucha, the Kokipka, Tiwahagan, and Hichapi. Our families are concerned about our young ones getting vaccinated, na hitchikcho, ashna hachike, tokishke, uchukomte ke, oina hithoka wochike okaga. So we always pray for those things, for the safety and health of our people, not only our own nations, but all people throughout Makasi Khomina. So I Hokashla let Kate Topataka hena ochike na petugde wakari na onenie Ushiach Joma Pie. Seit Hokashila Ila Otana Hachi Yukcha Yuhabna Hachum Speucha Bonicha. Saut Hokashila Ushiach Kapie. We still have many things to learn and to teach. So I ask that you look down and give us blessings so we may continue in our efforts we do to preserve our language and culture. Saut Hokashila He Yuha Ochike Wakale. So Ushim Kapie, Ushim Kapie Ho Mitaki Oasi.
Oh, Mitako Asi, Mama Kashka Oasi.
Oh, Wopida. So those of you that are joining us out on social media world, we want to encourage participation. We try to show a little bit of gratitude for joining us. And by doing so, we have a few things that we try to give away: a jacket and a Kindle Fire. In fact, we're running low on those jackets. Those are like one of a kind, man. So if you don't get on this, that's it. And then I have to make another order for a new kind of jacket coming out in next year, 2022 Buffalo Chasers podcast, right around the corner. So, but we want to show some love to some individuals that participated in last week's podcast. We have a Kindle Fire up for grabs, and the winner of that is Brenda Jester.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Congratulations, Brenda. And then we also have that Cho jacket that Dexy Tommy's rocking over there with that embroidery of Buffalo Chaser. It's like a Buffalo Chaser's Letterman's jacket. So you letter in Buffalo Chaser. And the winner of that is Autumn 4-star Nguyen. Oh, wash day.
Right on.
4 stars out there. Kasi told me 4-star Ota. So congratulations to both of you. You can win those prizes over at, or claim those prizes over at the Student Services Building here at Fort Peck Community College. Just give us a call if you don't live around here, 406-768-6370. Give us your name and mailing address and we'll hook you up. So winner, chicken dinner. Congratulations to both of you. So with that, actually, Tommy Earl, what you got?
Toshka Daya Itano Echetuala Hurke. Again, my relatives Daya Hippie. I bet you kile me chante tawa galake nahana pechuza pelo Hurka. I bet you I state you happy. Toshka, again, you know that as you do these things and you got little kids in your home, you got to make sure you keep up with that certification of that domestic warrior, you know, and then have your wife sign it. Then you're definitely a domestic warrior. You can look after that.
I was really doing this morning. Picked out a knit and some lice this morning. So
there you go.
I leveled up. Man, I leveled up today.
Be kind of expert at that here pretty soon, man. You get better at it as you go. You call that family time. Yeah. Then you don't have to send them to school smelling like kerosene and a shaved head. When we was young, Earl, that's what they used to do. Remember? They'd shave all your hair and put kerosene
daylights out of us, man.
Yeah. Oh, man. You know, my relatives. And then, you know, this week, my relatives, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the Christmas stuff that we're wishing to enjoy for the sake of our children. And again, it brings us good things. We walk around happy and glad because, again, it's that time of year. But, you know, one of the things that it helped me to understand the importance as we segue into what Chia Earl's going to speak about those things. Ushpipi, or what did you call it?
Spoopy.
Ushpoopy. Yeah. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But beforehand, here locally, you know, like here on our reservation, Fort Peck Assiniboine Sioux Reservation, you know, at this time of year, we'd all get together and we do our stuff and kind of geared toward Christianity. But a lot of us don't understand that a lot of these things were also taken on by our culture. And that was really represented. If any of you know the beginnings or understand the beginnings of St. Anne's Church, right out here, the beginnings were kind of trying to incorporate our cultural traditional ways as well as maintaining that Christian perspective. And how that initially started, for those of you that may not know the history of that, is they started the church because you got to remember at that time, long ago, Lila, our way of life was against the law. And so what the Red Thunder family back in the day did was they started St. Anne's Church, and on top, on the main floor, they would have church, But then in the basement at night, they'd cover the windows and stuff, and they'd have a lookout, and they would do their traditional stuff. And people didn't understand that. And the reason they did that is because, again, like I said, Yushka na Yokpe Omani, they wanted to walk around in a good way, not necessarily in a Christian perspective, but also incorporating the cultural aspects of who we are. So we could feel comfortable, we could be happy and include ourselves in that merriment that our non-Indian relatives were experiencing. And so the culture and the protocol that we followed helped a lot of our old people really feel comfortable, but it was outlawed, so they'd have to hide it. So St. Anne's Church would provide that cultural influence in the basement, and they'd hide it, and they'd have a guard, and they'd have a guy watching, make sure that nobody come and they'd do their prayers and their songs and stuff like that in a good way. You know, one of the stories that was shared with me as growing up, and it was shared so many different times. I don't know if you guys remember David Red Fox. He was one of our people. He was one of my relatives, and he would travel around with old Joe Red Thunder. Joe was our chairman one time, our vice chairman for many years, and people didn't know that he was very religious person in a Christian sense, but in a spiritual way, he was very important to us because he was blessed with the ability to heal with his hands. I don't know if any of you really knew that, but he would be requested to travel all over Indian country, and he would do not necessarily a ceremony, but he would, when he would lay his hands on somebody, he had a healing and ability to heal. And so he was quite demand, but he was very good-minded, positive-minded person that incorporated that Christian perspective, but at the same time maintained a traditional aspect about how he dealt with this blessing that he had. And I heard that story time and time again. I never had an opportunity to witness it, but that's what they would do. You know, and in that, so it's not like we're the first ones trying to do this. They've always attempted to bring those things together to help us understand the importance of living in both those worlds and accommodating some of the protocol and some of the rules and regulations that they have over here, but just kind of accommodating them to bring about a sense of security, a sense of trust, and so that we could feel happy about some of the things they were celebrating over here, but also some of the things we celebrated over on our side as well. And one of the things that Chie Nietzsche Ole will speak to you about is not only Christmas, but the New Year's and how we used to bring that in, the white man's New Year's, how we used to bring that in, and some of the good things that would incorporate from an Indian perspective or a First Nations perspective in regards to that celebration as it relates to these things. And you know, I had an opportunity to witness some of these things, especially over in Fort Berthold. They would do these things. They do the tail feather dance, some of these things that you'd bring in the New Year with. But Chie Nietzsche Ole will share that with you, some of these things. But I would like for him to talk about that. But just to help you understand, we've always tried to bring these values together so that make people feel better, people feel comfortable, not to get any way about defending or protecting or anything. Not like we had to hide and do these things back in the day until 1968 or 1972 when the Indian Religious Freedom Act came about, and then we could do these things openly. Well, that's why they had to hide underneath the church and do the traditional things. But that's what brought that comfort to our older folks. And again, so they wanted to celebrate like that, but it wasn't necessarily Jesus's birthday that they were celebrating. They were just celebrating the concept of family unity, And so they would do things to kind of bring that about, to strengthen the family. So I'm going to let Chie Earl kind of speak to you on that, but I just wanted us all to understand the importance of this time of year. We can get together, we can enjoy this time for the sake of our children, we can pursue the birth of Jesus Christ, or we can also understand the importance of just being a happy person that's walking around happy and glad that we're still alive, but from a cultural perspective too. And so we take advantage of this opportunity in a good way to share that generosity, that gift giving, or just involving ourselves like that. So nothing wrong with feeling good about yourself. What do you think of that, Chie? You could feel good about that, eh?
Ako kuka, ibluksange, Diana, brings back memories, you know.
Huh.
When I was working in Lower Brule, his grandma brought up, we had these elderlies authenticating terminology, Lakota terminology that's going to be used in the school. And here, the subject of Christmas came up. And he talked about what they call a yushpupi. And I didn't know what that was.
Oh,
So I talked to Yaka, and she said, you know, years ago, she said, there's a lot of things that grew around here, but you didn't see too many green pine trees or trees like that because they weren't native to this part of the country, you know.
yeah.
And I thought about that, and I said, well, the Christmas tree, I said, so what did they do? She said, oh, they went out, she said, and they found a tree that had a lot of branches, and they offered tobacco and for the tree to become part of their activity. And so they said, and then they would make a list of all the children and elderly people in the community, and they would write their names on pieces of paper, and they would tie them to the tree. And when the people gathered and came, they had apples and oranges. And when you think about that, that was very, very important because that provided vitamin C and, you know, for health purposes. So that was, you know, candy was in abundance in days, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I was sitting there listening to them talking about that. And I said, you know, I said, this is worthwhile pursuing. And so an individual started off, one of the kids would come up and they'd encourage her to come up, and they would take a name off the branch, take a tree, and she would read it, pronounce that person's name. If she needed help, they helped her. So the person's name was called, would come up, and they'd shake hands, and then they choose an apple or an orange. And then that person who received that gift would, her turn would go to pick a name off the tree while the first one sat down. And so they'd rotate the whole time till every one of these kids got up to participate in that. And see, some of the things they watch for value, generosity, and kindness, a lot of those kids would take that fruit or that gift, so to speak, and give it to the grandpa or grandma.
Oh,
You know, so that was all part of that value. And so I said, I'm going to give it a go. I'm going to give it a go. And so I decided that, so I convinced different ones to help me. And we even had a, how would you call it? One of the teachers there, Caucasian persuasion, helped us out. He was dressed up as the scout watching the camp. We had him all decked out. Anyway, so we decided, so two of my friends, Lakota George and John B. I had a van, that's the only thing I could transport something in. And so I talked to them, come and help me out. But I was working on that van, the windows on the passenger side of that van didn't work. And then the windows in the back were all sealed, and mine would only open so low because, you know, it's an old van, I was working on it.
Reservoir.
I had a dog, his name was Tokyo.
Yeah.
I inherited him, and somewhere along the line, somebody didn't close the gate or something, but he got out.
Yeah.
So somebody left the deer carcass, or he found a carcass someplace. So Yasmishka, he cleaned that carcass up.
Yeah.
Hello, Shicha, but he ate it anyway. You know, he's used to eating
now. Yeah.
dog food, yeah, but yeah, he ate that up. I didn't know it. So when west of Lower Brule, going up to the tribal office, a big incline, big, tall, almost on a 45-degree angle going up towards the tribal chambers. And we're going up that hill like that, and Tokyo was in a car because we're going way out in the country to
Yeah.
get a tree. So I went on Kiab, call all of a sudden, I go to George, he said, Earl, he said, open your window. That guy. And then my friend John, he said, geez, man, he said, he tried to open his window, it wouldn't go down either. So I'm going uphill and prison. Geez, pull over. He would pull onto a scenic view place. And we all got out of the car, opened the doors, and let Tokyo out, let him run around, you know. He said, "Hey, what's that
Check,
dog
check.
eat?" I have no idea. I don't know. So he took care of business anyway. And so we got out there and we followed the instructions about finding a tree with nice, good branches on it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a glorious trees as long as it could hold those letters and things, you know.
Yeah.
And so we cut it, prayed with it, and caught it, and brought it back, set it up in the elementary gym, and we did that. And lots of people came, and it was really unique because they remember that, the older ones.
Yeah.
And because we put it on flyers.
You
Spoopy, well,
spoopy.
you hawked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You spoopy. Was you hawked it. That's how we wrote it, but people recognize it, so they came.
Yeah.
You know.
That's a
It was
game,
really
eh?
powerful. Yeah, it was powerful because you seen the humility of shaking hands, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
and being thankful for what they're getting, and then sharing it.
Oh,
So the valleys, you know, the valley was there.
yeah.
So then after that was all over, and all that took place, where everybody got an apple or an orange. Then they opened up the dancing area, and they put that box of oranges and apples out there, and they sang. They had a drum come and they sang a thank you song.
Yeah.
And the people went out, danced. Even some of the elderly got up, they helped, and they danced around those apples like that. And then they had all the kids line up around it, you know, and then they spilled the apples and kids took off with those after those apple and oranges.
Yeah.
And then again, you seen it again. They would go give them to the elderly, you know,
Oh,
people that
yeah.
couldn't walk or wheelchairs, all
Yeah.
that. And it all took place in one word, you spoopy.
Oh, oh,
And I thought that was really unique. I thought that was really something. I didn't know that growing up. When you're little, you see a lot of things, but you never realize the origin or history and how it all started. There was an adaptation that you spoke about taking something and then making it part of who we are.
Yeah.
You know, the apples and oranges, that's a change. Used to be June berries, plum, wojapi, and things like that. Dried meat, but now it was a conversion to what was available today.
yeah.
So anyway, so when that was all over, we went around and we shook hands for wishing everybody Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And then we decided, they said, New Year's Eve, we should do New Year's Eve. Now I've seen that as a little boy, how the old man, you know, the old New Year comes into the dance hall when they're singing and people just dancing, kids dancing around. And he comes in there and he's just all peppy, you know.
Yeah.
And he's
Representing the old year. Yeah.
yeah, the whole year, huh?
Yeah.
Tamahi Hunis. It really looks nice.
Ah.
I mean, that smiling. And as the singing and dancing progressed, getting closer to 12 o'clock, pretty soon they brought in this big old crib. I don't know where they got that from, but it was the superintendent of the school, Cody, you know. You remember those big milk bottles, those big nipples on it they feed calves with?
Yeah.
That was
yeah.
you, huh? Yeah.
Oh.
Then I don't know where they found that jammies that has a flap in the back.
Ugh.
And he had a bonnet on. Ugh, wow, he was lame.
Yeah.
They wheeled him in there. Yeah, everybody lost it, man.
Representing
guy
the
was
new
in-
year, eh?
Yeah, so they,
Yeah.
so they put that baby crib beside us. He'd get up and he'd peek out and look around. They're actors. I mean,
Yeah.
they knew the part. They must have seen it
Dramatic.
or heard about it someplace.
Yeah.
He'd look around and he'd be, he'd be in that bottle. Pretty soon he threw the bottle out in the middle of it. He stood up in there, you know. And that old guy, by that time, he needed a chair between the intertribals.
Yeah.
He'd sit down, put his head down, he's getting tired. He'd sit out there, said that New Year, that little baby, he got out and he danced around, he'd stand by the crib holding on to it, dancing. Pretty soon he reached in the back like that, and he flipped those buttons off and they put a pamper back there. Hey, your spoon, he threw it down. Pretty soon his legs started moving and pretty soon he came out. He's like, really dancing. That old guy was sitting there and he go dance around with Akisha and egg him on to come out, you know. But
Yeah.
the old man would sit there. One night, guys, getting close to 12 o'clock in the New Year's, and here they bring out the broom. So he'd go over there like that, and he'd sweep behind him or sweep in front of him, saying, hey, you know, it's time for you to go. But the old guy barely.
Kigala,
Pretty
Kigala.
soon they went over and they helped him get up. So
Yeah.
they're taking him out. The New Year's baby was really dancing behind him, sweeping it.
Pushing him out. Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, that was hilarious,
Yeah.
you know. But anyway, that was taking, you know, the concept of a New Year's
Yeah.
and the song that's sung for it. I know it, and I was trying to remember it a while ago. You know, I was thinking, I said, I wonder if anybody here would be interested in doing that. I'm not going
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
And get some people involved in it and see if we can get it, do it. You
Yeah.
know, because I think they would, kids would really enjoy that, you know, pass out
Yeah.
candy or apples, oranges or whatever. And so they can see that they're just natural actors.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just amazing. I wouldn't think they had the gumption, I guess you would say, to
Yeah.
actually do it, you know, because the old man had a mask on. I mean, the old year, he had a mask on. Well, I still don't know who that was, but I
Yeah.
know who the baby was.
Yeah.
I think
know
back
that-
on reminisce of it. It makes me laugh.
You know, Chia, that's something that I had a chance to witness because they do that in Fort Berthold, but they also incorporated the next day, the day on the first during the day, they had that what they call that. Remember that tail feather dance we do?
Yep.
They hang those
I've been there,
feathers
I
on
know.
the wall in the four directions.
Yeah.
Then they'd have the veterans they'd sing certain songs and they had a kettle of meat in the middle, and the veterans, the designated veterans, the ones that were designated where those take care of those tail feathers, they went and they put them on. They put them on and they dance around that kettle, and they would attack that kettle 4 times, eh? And after they
Honey
did,
Coo,
they
yeah.
pass over it with their hand like that. Then after the 4th time, just towards the end of the song, they take those forked sticks and they lift that meat out of there. And after that song was over, they'd go take that meat and they'd pass it out to the people, especially the old ones, eh? But they were telling me, they were sharing with me that that meat represents that puppy soup, eh? So it wasn't a
Yeah.
kettle dance per se, it was a tail feather dance. But the veterans, the ones that wore them bustles and took care of those bustles, they were the ones that did that dance, and they kind of like a medicine dance for the new year, that they have a good year throughout the whole year because they're looking after the responsibilities. Yeah, that's that New Year's thing. But the night before, just about before New Year's, they also did what you just talked about. They did that with an old man coming there dancing around, and he got tired, and that baby come out, but they didn't have him in a crib. He just come out with a big old pamper on, and he was dancing, had that bonnet on, and had that bottle, and he was dancing around. And then he went and chased that right at New Year's. He chased that old man out of the door, and that old guy left, and that young baby just started dancing. That's what they did there. Also, that'd be dandy if somebody did that here, eh? Kind of get involved and. But it really made you feel good. You're preparing for the new year to come, eh? And that was pretty cool, I thought. But
It's a Omaka
Techa,
Trecha Hihuni.
uh,
Omaka Trecha Hihuni. That's the words in that song. But
Hihuni.
there's more words, but I couldn't remember offhand. Omaka Trecha Hihuni. The new year has arrived.
and it's here
in
now.
that
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
You're shaking hands.
yeah, yeah. That's
a song that There's a Napech use up here alone. There's a song that they sing when they shake
Shake hands, eh? Yeah. Oh, it's that. Yeah, stuff like that. You know, and that's important, that because we could, even back in the day, and I don't know why there was a time where they quit doing that. But we need to really identify that we're not here in opposition to one way or the other, but we can include and adapt and adjust these things to apply to even their way, eh? We're not here in spite of them, we're here because of them, and they're here because of us. And so the sooner we get together to pursue, in our language, what do they say? Wo lakota makasi tomani, eh? Dakota, wama Dakota, lakota hemacha. And in that, they begin to understand we're your friend, we're your ally, will help you in times of need. And our adaptation to even their belief system is how we exercise that opportunity to be your friend, eh? Because we could adapt that, and we have. And that's why I mentioned that story about St. Anne's Church out here. Old Joe Red Thunder and those guys established that way in the beginning, and the Red Door family, and all of those people that were involved in the beginning of St. Anne's Church. And it's not to where they got defensive. They just understood, hey, that's a part of us too. That's what makes us happy. That's what makes us glad at this time of year also. It's just, and so if they didn't go against it, they just continued on and added to that merriment, I guess is how you said. And then like us, we do it for the sake of our children, eh? To kind of include them and help them feel good about this time of year, and so they don't get too alienated or ostracized because they don't believe. So we're not trying to create division. We want to become inclusive in that manner. We're not trying to be exclusive or different to the point to where we stay away. We want to participate too, and we have a way of doing that, just like what you explained. Yushpupi. Now that means to pick, right? To pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it off. Yeah. Pick
Yeah.
that name up.
Yeah.
When you mentioned Mr. Red Thunder Joe,
Yeah.
he was down in Standing Rock. He went to Kennel.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine stopped by. He said, would you like to go with us? So where are you going? He said, we're going to Kennel. He said, this guy has a bad knee. He was an awesome ball player. And his knee was bothering really bad. And the other friend, he had a hip issue. And so he said they heard about that, and they've tried everything else, medicine and all this stuff. And they said that they wanted to go. So I said, yeah, I'll go with you guys. So we went to Kennel, and they had it at the church. It was in the church.
Yeah.
And so what I remember of that, he said there was songs and prayers and all that stuff, but he had something in his hand. And he'd take his finger and he'd rub it. And he'd go over and he'd rub it on their head.
Yeah.
Go like this. And people would go up there like that, and some of them fainted, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So they were helped off. And anyway, my friend went up there for his knee. And so he went up there and he showed it to him, told him, and so then he went down and he put his hand on his knees and prayed.
Mm-hmm.
To this day, it's gone. It has no more pain in it.
Yeah.
And then my other friend whose hip was bothering, he did the same thing there for him, and he said he's never had any trouble or issues with it. So I know him, and I met him. I shook his hand. You know.
Yeah, that was
But
old Joe.
But I didn't know the relationship to him to Calvin.
Oh, that's it's his uncle.
See,
Close.
so I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
now I know.
now you understand. See, and a lot of people don't know the history of the beginning of St. Anne's Church, eh?
Yeah.
Because again, those were Indians at that time. Old Red Door and Red Thunder, and they were priests, eh? But yet they brought along their Indian culture as well, you see? But they couldn't bring it along in the open because it was against the law. But they were such good-hearted people. They understood the importance of that cultural value system. and they didn't go against the church. They promoted that, but yet they kept their culture alive too, because they spoke their language and they sang the songs in their language, all that good stuff, eh? But Joe was blessed with those healing hands. If you talk to him, he was always rubbing his hands, eh? Not in a
Yeah.
nervous way, but in a good way. And he was always making sure his hands were in good shape. But my cousin David Red Fox used to travel all over with him and take him all over because they requested his presence and he'd come and help them, eh? Actually, and again, there's a story right there. You know that happened, eh? And you know them
Yeah.
people, and so old Joe would do that, but he never did put out a shingle and say, I can do this. I didn't try to be somebody. He just based on his actions, his acts, he did that, and people found out about it. And so when Joe was asked, he'd go, and he didn't ask for
Word
no
of mouth.
money, nothing, eh?
Word of mouth, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of, again, Wama Dakota. When they say that, that's what that means, is stuff like that. You don't do it for money or prestige or respect. You do it because you can. And that's what they helped us to understand. If we know the truth about a long time ago, how those folks would do that. Joe wasn't a medicine man. He wasn't trying to be somebody, but he would always preach, but at the same time understood that ekchewi chasha, that's as well, eh? And so he incorporate those things in a spiritual way, and so that he could help people. Always trying to be helpful. Is that cool or what?
Wa'opia.
How?
Wa'opia with Josh.
Yeah.
We're talking about values. When they first made this church here in Yates, it looks like a teepee.
Yeah.
It comes up as a cone inside. Anyway, there was a memorial going on. And the individual I was sitting by, I won't mention names, but I said, I heard something. I was wondering if you knew the truth of it. I said, what'd you hear? I said, when they first built this church, the confessionals behind the altar. And this lady went in from one side. She was in there. And this individual that was sitting by me, I said, there was a gentleman who went in on the other side. And they were in there for such a long time, people waiting, wondering, boy, sure taking a long time with this confession,
Yeah.
And here the father walked in. Priest, I'm sorry, he said, had a delay, he said, but please, he said, be patient, he said, we'll start confessions here shortly. So anyway, they both came out at the same time. So I asked him, I said, who started confessing first? He looked at me, you remember that?
Oh,
that's unique, man. I said, is that true? He said, he shook his head.
Mention names.
Yeah, so we sat there and laughed at that. So he said, I said, how do you remember things like that? Because it's funny, man.
Only on the res.
Exactly, yeah.
Happen.
My father-in-law used to talk Dakota, and he was telling, he's a bus driver.
Yeah.
He's on this bus route and he came around this road like that. Here, there's a car laying on his side, So he went by on his run. He delivered the kids. He come back through. He came by there. He had the car pushed back on the wheels, and he said, he stopped and he asked him, can he give us a boost? Here, oil leaking out of there. Battery fell all over the place. We're all bashing. All we need is a boost, Dad.
Next. You look like it. No, but Che, I think people need to understand that again, we're here as Lakota, Nakona people, and again, that's what that means, is your friend. Even though there's different ways to do these things, and again, we always do that we call it Tokeha Takia, our future, our children, and we always try to help them understand. We try to do good for their sake, so that our children, Indian, non-Indian, can come together and really enjoy times like this, involve themselves in the New Year, the white man's New Year. Our New Year is Sundance time, but their New Year, because we're inclusive, we appreciate that as well. And so in that, we started these ceremonies or these protocols at that time for their sake too, so we could include ourselves in the way they choose to live their life as well. So if you look at it like that, you understand that the diversity that is there is so representative of nowadays, eh? And we live in such a fast-paced world that it's hard to accommodate some of these things, but at the same time, we need to slow down enough to where we can do these things, like what you talk about, you spoopy, and actually just maybe not everything, but an apple and an orange, how much that means to you, what that represents, like what you said, you know, vitamin C, and all those good things with the apple, the eating, the sustaining the body, respecting that, but also the generosity by, if you receive that and then you give it to somebody older, it would really help them. Opportunities like that to deal with these virtues that we're promoting to help us understand, hey, we're in this together. And as soon as we come together and we can unify in a family sort of a way, we realize the importance of that structure, that it represents that strength and all that good stuff. But these are some of the things that I think we need to talk about to understand that they're not over there and us and them, but we, you know, that we thing comes in, that individuality, us, we, and them, as opposed to I, me, my, that attitude of entitlement that is a dysfunctional characteristic that doesn't apply to who and what we are, what we represent. So I think that's those stories are something that we should try to develop that somehow, some way, and it'd be different. Yeah, you spoopy, yeah, but and understand that, eh? So, well, I think it's at the end of the hour, Che. You got, what else do you got?
When you dress up as the old man, I'll be the young guy chasing you out.
I'll be the young guy. You look like. Toshka, what do you think of that? How do you feel about that discussion? I thought it was pretty cool, especially about this time of year, Toshka.
Oh, hey, Washte. I really liked hearing you guys. That was really interesting. I really liked that one. So maybe can you give me a jump? Oh.
Yeah.
Kaptaan, eh?
Ushimalo Omakta, you scoop, you. How would you say jump?
Yeah, there's a word for that.
Yeah.
You could say but that's throwing it away.
No, the jump.
Optional is to spill it out, but to dump, yeah, echpea.
Yeah, that's a word. Yeah, that's the word.
Do you guys have those pajamas with that flapper in the back?
When we were kids, we used to wear those, man.
Yeah.
Guys, go out to the bathroom outside.
Just gonna pop the button, ready to go. Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Okay. Dok Star relatives. I'll see you next week.
How Wopila Chicha.
Chateni Washka,
Hey,